In what way does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real products? Hello, my name is Jewell, and this is my evaluation for my A2 coursework. I've decided to work on the magazine brief due to already collecting knowledge of making a magazine for my AAS coursework last year. But instead of going down the more popular route of music or film magazines, I decided to look more specifically at surfing due to my piqued interest in the water sport at the time of choosing my genre for my regional magazine. First, however, I needed to know what types of surfing magazines are out there. As Bentley said in 1997, the creative process is the rearranging of the old to the new. This is when I came across what appeared to be one of the more popular carved surfing magazines. It was from this base that I began to build up my my magazine, starting with my cover, and specifically starting with my masthead, which I chose the font and style relating to the local region magazines printed in Devon and Cornwall. In terms of surfing, there was only one available magazine in Cornwall, and others are available nationwide and some internationally. It is because of this that I decided to name and base my magazine as a region-wide southwest. I was able to understand instantly from the already completed and published magazine that it was the masthead that always jumped out. Firstly, it was incredibly easy to understand, and even though part of it's covered up by an effect, it is still possible to understand the masthead and read it clearly. The masthead is also clear in its font, which is yet bold but not too bold to jump out at you. I believe that the colour in which it was used, the masthead, was due to because of the colour relation to retro, but also because it's in the image, specifically on the surfboard. It's because of this that I decided to go with a colour that related to my image. For example, the image that I'm using is a black background, so I'm going to complement it, have my masthead colour as white, but also from what I have seen other styles of mastheads, they're solid colour. However, I decided to break this common convention and go with something a bit more wacky and interesting, using a style that has streaks and dots throughout the title. When it came time for the image, I had to choose one of my various images that could possibly be angled, or something that related to breaking the conventions or have a straight leveled image. I also needed to use my image that had the best quality in terms of pixels and clarity of the image and the model. I decided to go with the night image due to there being very little amounts of previous surf magazines that went with an image that were taken at night. 99% of the images in other magazines were taken during the day. Thus, choosing a night image as my cover would break one of the more common conventions. When deciding whether or not to follow the common convention of a magazine in comparison to common conventions of a surfing magazine in relation to the typography was one of the more difficult decisions for my cover design. After carefully consideration, I decided upon going with the common convention seen on a surfing magazine, which was keeping typography to a low amount and having only a short few sentences. I decided upon placing them in important and easy to read locations such as the sweet spot on the bottom of the page. After I had done all these things, it came time to lay out my cover, in which I decided to follow the common convention layout, most magazines having the masthead at the top, feature article headline and sweet spot, and issue number and price with the barcode. Due to the bottom of the page being a little blank, I decided to add a menu bar to just give more layers to the page. Then the time came looking towards creating my contents page. I decided to look at a magazine that broke some of the common conventions of most magazines. I slightly based my contents off of one of ESM's contents page with a style in the Wild West font, and despite this, however, I decided towards a mixture in my font, something between wavy surfing but also in the middle of the Wild West, which in turn broke the common conventions of most magazines that I could find. Then it came time to work on what type of images I should use for my contents. After careful deliberation, I decided that to use one that I took of a surfer is in a very similar position as one on the template that I was looking for, in which turn eventually followed the common convention of a magazine page, which being the Z pattern, going from the masthead to the image then typography. I also decided to give it a parchment-like layover to look more closely to the ESM convention. On the terms of my layout, I also decided to follow the convention of the ESM magazine because I liked it and it was simple, but not too simple. Keeping with the common conventions of a certain magazine, I decided to keep out the editor's paragraph or column, so that I stuck to the magazine basic conventions. However, on careful thought of the matter, I did decide, however, to put a QR code into my magazine to link to my website design. The contents page would then have the ability to be read by people who prefer to read it online instead of on paper form. Anyway, onwards to my feature article. First, I decided to break the common conventions of having a massive amount of text all over the page, and instead followed just the surfing magazine as my base convention, in which there is usually a maximum of around 4 to 5 paragraphs. This is due to commonly most surfers not specifically wanting to read a lot, but to look at the images instead. However, some aspiring surfers it would also give them a sort of escape, and also have some kind of friend in the magazine, in the way of words such as "Hey dude" or "What's up." The image that I decided on using was a hard choice. Between the one that I used in changing the front cover image, I was going to use the front cover image, but after I saw this, I ended up using it because the surfer was doing an interesting trick, which might entice the reader to continue to read on. In the matter of the table on the left side, I decided upon making a multicolored table because it would bring attention to the black background of the rocky outcropping, which may grab more attention from its reader. My billboard was actually more of the easy pieces to create. Due to me being able to base it off my second design of my feature, I decided to follow standard common conventions of billboards, and make my billboard short but snappy when it came to my slogan, that is. The image that I chose was mostly because it was of the highest quality image that I hadn't used, but I still hadn't used that one yet. Also because the image had a circle going straight line, which would link up with me using a Z pattern. I also decided to make the billboard slightly artistic, like it was painted, to make it stand out. Lastly, when making my website, I firstly decided upon looking at a good template that related to either surfing or the ocean. I eventually came across it and thus began the creation. To get an idea, I decided to look at Carl's website, which I was able to understand the basic layout, which I was able then to tweak my own website layout to have similarity to Carl's. For my 2 linked pages, I decided upon using my other images to make a media page, where it would be a place that people could submit images if my website was official and Surfing Southwest was a real magazine. Secondly, I decided to write a second article based slightly upon Boardmasters 2013 for my second linked page. To display my magazine on my website, I'm going to be using a slideshow where a gallery where the pages change both on a timer and when clicked. How effective is the combination of your main product and auxiliary tasks? I believe that they are very effective together. My billboard and contents page relate to each other in the fact they are easy to see and they are of the same person surfing. In other ways that my website, magazine, and billboard relate to each other are basically through the name being on cover every page of my website, but also on the billboard. My website, magazine, billboard all have images that are in very similar locations and ways, but also on the same day. I have placed a QR code on my contents page so that my website and magazine are digitally linked. In addition, I have kept the same color palette to make my product recognizable and to my brand through repetition. In short, I think my main task and auxiliary task complement each other perfectly because I've kept the media language similar throughout the products. Viewed together, I think that all my products look professional and resemble actual magazines, websites, and billboards that you would see for a regional surfing magazine. What have you learned from your audience feedback? The primary thing that I learned from doing my primary audience research through SurveyMonkey that I post on social media sites such as Twitter and Facebook, 90% of my audience wanted to see good quality images that relate to their age group specifically. It is also clear that the majority of people in my target audience were in the social grades of C1 and C2. But however, there were also some in D and E, and around about 10% were in B, and then there were a few people who were in A. From this I learned I needed to primarily pitch my magazine at the grades C1 and C2, but I also needed to keep in mind that the fact that this had a second target audience be upper class and lower class readers. This isn't surprising, because over the last decade surfing has been a trendy sport with people from all types of life there. Therefore, I expected my niche magazine would in fact sway towards being a mass product. My audience research just confirmed my suspicions. However, I was slightly surprised that some people in E grade were into surfing, as it is an incentive sport for unemployed people, but then again, students also fall into that group, so parents might have been able to fund this sport. This showed me another secondary target audience would be parents buying the magazine for their children. With this in mind, I decided to avoid too much bad language or sexual images of such as women in bikinis or men wearing nothing but underwear on the cover, as it may put parents off. My research also showed that my primary audience would be males, around about 70%. From this I learned to put a male surfer on the cover, as it will represent and attract my primary audience. I did learn that my second target audience would be women, but a male surfer wouldn't really put them off, as they could relate to the action shot and may even find him attractive. My target audience said they wanted the magazine to be called Surfing Southwest in a scorched earth font by Casey Fonts found on thefont.com. I followed their choice as it was represented in their needs and would sell my product better. From SurveyMonkey, I also learned that the majority of my target audience want to see high quality action shots. I gave my audience what they wanted by putting high quality action shots on my cover, content and double page spread, also included however in my billboard and website. I even managed to get a shot of one of the top surfers in the UK, which represented people in my target audience who wanted contest, news and images. Another thing that I learned from my audience research was that my target audience wanted stories that didn't just relate to contest. My double page spread article was about secret surf, so I decided to cater for this request. I asked people that I knew to do my survey for my magazine to complete another, both based on my website and my billboard. First, my billboard. They wanted a slogan that was catchy and incredibly easy to understand. From a distance, but also then easy to remember. After careful consideration, I decided upon using Surfing Southwest. Join the lineup. Continued to the bottom of the page with a better relation to the billboard being about a magazine. However, before setting it this way, I was going to check with people in my target audience if this looked good and it was understandable, in which 90% said that they liked it this way. Another necessity that I saw from my SurveyMonkey was that they wanted very high quality images due to billboard being much larger than even A1 size paper. My readers also wanted wavier styled fonts instead of the same masthead or magazine, which I didn't agree with, however, but blended to my target audience, and after I did, I was happy with the change. After the completion of my billboard, I moved on to responses I got from my survey on what my readers wanted for my website. It was clear that with 90% wanting me to keep the white as the masthead, but also mix in a surfy blue colour, more specifically light cyan, and then keep the same font style that is on my billboard. The readers also wanted a page in which they can submit their own photos to the website to feature on the website. They said they also wanted to have a new feature, one that is only available on the website, and to make it also website slightly independent in this case. All this I however didn't agree with at the first, but after changing it and tweaking some things in Dreamweaver, I decided I liked it. I did this by going on Dreamweaver, and editing the code to give me the correct styling options and specific text through the inbuilt options that Dreamweaver has. Over all my target audience, I did confirm my thoughts that most surfers were in the age range of 15 to 25, which is what I thought my target audience was going to be. How did you use media technologies in the construction of the research, planning, and evaluation stages? As Gauntlet said in 2007, new media technologies have allowed everyday people to become producers of media text because through the internet and anyone can reach the worldwide audience. When beginning my planning stages, the internet was incredibly handy due to a scarcity of books on making a magazine in this modern age. To help me with the current common conventions of magazine. When starting my work, I decided on which type of photo editing software I was going to use. I decided to go with the more popular and trustworthy one using Adobe Photoshop, as it would be a safe bet. Despite using Adobe Photoshop, I also decided to use Adobe InDesign for the text, as they have better options. And you're able to lay out the text in columns and paragraphs more easily than you can in Photoshop. Making to my website, I decided upon using the internet to find out the basics of using Adobe Dreamweaver, which is specifically designed to make websites. I also decided to find and use a template to work from the internet due to it be easier to find my website from a template rather than do it from scratch, unless I happen to know computer code, which I didn't. In this modern age, with the digital camera being in almost every household, it is much easier for me to take images due to being able to take like 200 photos, not needing to worry about getting the perfect shot, that I'd be needing to find the right shot angle, aperture, and exposure, that I'd have to find on a manual camera, but because of the limited film on a film strip. Also, making my magazine from images from a digital camera will give me better quality images to use for the cover, contents, feature, and billboard, which seems to be a necessity in modern business and magazines due to almost every other magazine in the world having high quality images on their pages. All this was possible through the advances in technology of the digital camera, of the digital area, such as the invention of digital cameras, and the advances in computer science making it easy to edit and find things through the internet. For all of my work, I decided to use the Apple iMac Macintosh, due to this type of computer being better in terms of editing than a Windows PC.